Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. There was lipstick on the mug. Not red, Mallory never wore red. It was that dusty rose color she claimed looked natural, though it stained everything it touched. I stood there, in our kitchen, holding her coffee cup in my hand. It was still warm, but Mallory wasn't home. She had texted me 10 minutes earlier. Just parked. Be up in a few. Which made no sense because she wasn't supposed to be out. No meeting. No errands. No gym class. She had told me this morning she'd be working from home all day, catching up on spreadsheets. And yet here I was, staring at her half-empty coffee, freshly brewed, while the scent of cologne, something musky, peppery, expensive, lingered in the air. Not mine. I walked through the living room slowly, scanning for signs. Her phone charger was still plugged in. A single earring lay on the rug. The throw pillows were tossed in a way that suggested urgency. But it wasn't until I reached the staircase that I heard it. The faint click of the back door closing. I didn't run. I didn't yell. I just waited. The front door opened a minute later. Mallory walked in like she was in a hurry to seem casual. Hair tousled. Lip gloss wiped off. And she was wearing a sweatshirt I hadn't seen in weeks. One she used to wear to bed before things between us started getting quiet. She spotted me instantly and froze, hands still on the doorknob. I smiled. It was the kind of smile that says everything words don't. "You're home early," she said, voice light. Too light. I held up the lipstick-stained mug. "Thought you were working from home." She blinked. Yeah, I did. But I stepped out to get coffee." I held up her own mug. "From the kitchen?" Her face twitched, just barely. Then she walked toward me. "You're overthinking again, Trenton," she said softly, reaching to kiss me like she always did when she wanted to shut me up without a fight. And that's when I said it. "I'd kiss you, but I don't want to taste your boyfriend." She stopped, completely, mid-step, like I'd hit her with a tranquilizer dart. There was no laughter, no protest, no insult, just wide eyes, a pulse in her neck going wild. And then, "I don't know what you think you heard," she began, but her voice cracked halfway through. She backed up, bumping into the corner of the table. Her hand shook as she reached for her phone, probably to text him, or delete something, or both. I didn't stop her, because the panic on her face told me more than any password ever could. She rushed upstairs that night, claiming she needed to shower, but I didn't follow. I just sat on the couch in silence, the scent of that other man's cologne still hanging in the air like a storm that hadn't passed. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stared at the wall, gripping the coffee mug like it held answers. In a way, it did. The lipstick on it didn't match anything she'd worn in weeks, but it was fresh, and I wasn't the one she'd been sipping coffee with. I slept on the couch. Or rather, I pretended to. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured her with someone else, laughing, whispering, kissing. Not me, him. By morning, she was already dressed, hair still damp from the shower, fake smile plastered across her face like nothing had happened. "I'm heading to the co-working space today," she said, like she suddenly needed an office she'd never mentioned before. I nodded. "Sure." As soon as she walked out, I opened the drawer under the TV where we kept the home security stuff. She thought I'd disabled it months ago when we fought about privacy. I didn't. I just moved the app to a hidden folder and never mentioned it again. I pulled up the footage from the back door. Timestamp: 1:38 a.m. There he was, not fully visible but tall, confident, wearing a dark jacket. His hand rested too comfortably on her lower back as she let him out. She kissed him quickly, but real. Not a goodbye peck. A see-you-soon kiss. Then she peeked back into the house like a thief, checking if I'd caught her. I didn't feel rage. I felt hollow. I downloaded the clip, saved it in 3 places, and stared at the paused image on my laptop. Her hand on his chest. His smirk. My marriage reduced to a few seconds of grainy night vision. That evening, I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more. I needed to understand who he was, how long it had been happening, and what else she'd lied about. I didn't want just the affair. I wanted the full blueprint of her betrayal. So I started with her car. She never locked it, said she didn't trust herself not to lose her keys. I waited until she went to shower again. Same routine, different night, and snuck into the garage. There, tucked under the passenger seat, was a crumpled receipt from a restaurant I'd never heard of. One of those trendy downtown spots that charges $18 for toast. 2 entrees, a dessert, a single cocktail. The date? The same night she told me she stayed late working on invoices. On the back, in rushed handwriting, was a name. Call me Bryson. Smiley face. I stood there, under the dim garage light, holding her lies in my hand. Bryson. Who names their kid Bryson? Suddenly the scent, the candle, the nervous glances, the mysterious co-working space. It all made sense. And I knew exactly what I had to do next. The receipt felt heavier than it should have. Not because of the paper itself, but because of what it confirmed, that this wasn't some emotional mistake, not a one-time thing, not a moment of weakness. She was dating him, flirting over cocktails, laughing between courses. She was sitting across from this Bryson guy while I was home reheating leftovers and wondering if I was just imagining everything. The kicker? She charged it to our joint card, and I'd missed it because she logged in before I could check the transactions. A trick I now realized had probably become her habit. I spent the next day in research mode. I became someone else. Quiet, focused, borderline obsessive. I dug through her calendar, checked the timestamps on photos she'd posted to social media, even ran the restaurant receipt time against her location history on her phone, which she stupidly never disabled. Every piece of data screamed the same truth. Bryson wasn't some random guy. He was a regular. I even found a blurry group shot from a birthday dinner weeks ago. Mallory had cropped it, but I found the original on a friend's Facebook post. There he was, sitting next to her, hand on her thigh. I made a reservation at that same restaurant for the following night. For 2. Under the name Mallory Evans. I used her name on purpose just to see what would happen. When I arrived, I told the hostess I was early. She smiled politely, said, "Of course, she's a favorite here," and walked me to a corner table. I sat there, sipping water, heart pounding like I was about to rob the place. And then I saw him, Bryson. Tall, smug, dressed like a guy who thought leather jackets still meant something. He walked in, alone, looked around, and froze when he saw me. I raised my glass. He hesitated, then walked over slowly, clearly confused. "You're not Mallory," he said. "I'm her husband," I replied calmly. "You must be Bryson. I've heard so much about you." His face drained. "Look, man, I didn't know." "Save it." I cut him off, sliding the receipt across the table. "You knew. You signed this. You wrote your name on it like a teenage boy trying to impress a girl who still lies to her husband about overtime shifts." He sat down, uninvited, and tried to backpedal. Told me it wasn't serious, that Mallory said you were separated, that it was just dinner. I let him talk, let him hang himself with every word. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I just watched him fumble, lie, and deflate in real time. Then I dropped the final piece. "See, Bryson," I said, leaning in. "You didn't just wreck a marriage. You did it in a house with cameras, one of which caught you sneaking out the back door at 1:38 in the morning." He blinked. "And here's the part you might care about," I added, pulling out my phone. "You work for Davis and Glenn Accounting, right? My cousin's on their board. I already sent him the footage. He was very interested." That shut him up completely. I stood, left a $20 for the water I barely drank, and walked out without another word. My hands were shaking, but my heart felt clearer than it had in months. When I got home, Mallory was on the couch, watching some mindless dating show. She muted it and smiled like nothing had happened. "Hey babe, how was your day?" I smiled back. "Oh, interesting. I ran into someone who knows you pretty well." Her face faltered just slightly. Not enough for anyone else to notice. But I saw it. She knew. The house felt colder that night, like the walls knew what I knew. Mallory acted like everything was fine, but she was too calm, Too polite. She didn't ask where I'd been, and I didn't offer. It was like we were both tiptoeing around the reality that had already shattered everything, pretending the glass wasn't crunching beneath our feet. She poured herself a glass of wine, sat next to me, and made small talk about her day as if her affair hadn't just been served a warning shot. But the more she acted normal, the more I realized she wasn't panicking because she thought I believed her. She was panicking because she had no idea how much I knew, and that gave me an edge. So I leaned into that silence. Let it build. I waited until she fell asleep on the couch, wine glass still half full, the TV flickering across her face. Then I took her laptop upstairs. I wasn't expecting much. She was careful, smarter than I'd given her credit for. But I remembered something, an old folder she used when we were still freelancing together. We used to share invoices and drafts in it. She'd stopped mentioning it about a year ago, said she started a new system. I never thought about it again until now. Took me 20 minutes to guess her password. She hadn't changed it. Inside that folder was nothing at first. Just blank documents and a few old PDFs from her copywriting work. But then I noticed a subfolder hidden with a blank name. When I opened it, I felt my stomach drop. There were screenshots of messages, voice memos, a few blurry selfies with Bryson. But what got me wasn't the evidence of the affair itself. It was the timeline. The first file was from nearly 9 months ago. I'd still been planning our anniversary trip. She'd already been sleeping with him for weeks. The texts were worse than the visuals. Reading them felt like sticking my hand into broken glass, knowing full well I'd bleed. She mocked me, called me clingy and slow, told him she felt trapped by responsibility. There was even a message where she joked about how I still made her lunch every Friday, thinking it was romantic. She sent him a picture of the sandwich and wrote, "He tries so hard it's pathetic." That broke me. I sat there in the dark, staring at the screen while she slept just one floor below, drooling on the couch like nothing in her world had shifted. I thought about waking her up and showing her everything, demanding answers, screaming until my throat gave out. But instead, I did something else. I selected the entire folder, zipped it, and emailed it to myself with the subject line, "Truth for later," because I realized something important. I wasn't ready to confront her yet, not because I was scared, but because she was still lying. And if she thought I was clueless, she'd keep slipping. She'd show me more, and I needed to see just how far this rabbit hole went. So I closed the laptop, put it back exactly where I found it, and went downstairs. I kissed her forehead while she pretended to sleep, and I whispered, "You're going to tell me everything, eventually." She stirred but didn't wake up. The next morning, she moved like someone pretending not to be watched. Her smile was softer than usual, her voice too sweet, and every move felt rehearsed. She poured us both coffee, offered me the bigger slice of toast like it meant something, and kissed me on the cheek like a loyal wife. But her eyes never really met mine. They hovered, cautious, calculating, unsure of what I knew or how much I'd seen. "I'll be at the co-working space again today," she said casually, pulling on that gray blazer she wore when she wanted to appear professional. "They've got a new lounge area. Super quiet." I nodded, sipped my coffee, and didn't flinch. "Sounds nice." I watched her leave at exactly 9:04 a.m. I waited 10 minutes before I grabbed my keys and followed. I stayed several car lengths behind, careful at every light, driving like a ghost. She didn't go downtown, didn't even head toward the district with the co-working spaces she'd mentioned. Instead, she turned left at a light that led to the suburbs, toward a neighborhood I hadn't seen in years. She parked in front of a tan duplex with ivy climbing the front steps. I kept my distance, pulled over near a construction zone, pretending to be lost in paperwork. I watched as she walked up the path and rang the bell. It opened before she could even knock again. Bryson, shirtless, smiling, like he was expecting her. She stepped inside like she belonged. And then I waited. I sat in that car for over an hour, heart in my throat, fists clenched, trying to keep it together while my wife laughed and lounged in another man's home. I imagined what she was saying. How she probably told him I was still clueless. How she'd gotten away with it again. But this time I came prepared. While I sat there seething, I pulled out my phone and opened the folder I had emailed myself the night before. I started listening to the audio messages. Most of them were innocent in tone. Sweet nothings, inside jokes, little whispers she never gave me anymore. But one message stopped me cold. It was her voice. Shaky. Excited. I thought about telling him, but he'd fall apart. Trenton can't even handle silence. Imagine if I told him I've been seeing you this long. He'd probably write me a letter. She laughed. He laughed back. Let him. What's he gonna do? Cry into his spreadsheets? That one burned. Because I had written her letters. Stupid little notes I used to leave in her lunchbox. One on her pillow the day after our last fight. She said she kept them. I believed her. At 10:38 a.m., she came out, her hair messier than before, makeup touched up in a way only someone who's just been intimate would bother doing. I ducked low behind the dash. She didn't see me. She got into her car, texting someone, probably him, before pulling away, humming to herself like she hadn't just torched a marriage. I didn't go home. I didn't follow her. I drove straight to a print shop, printed every photo, every message, every email from that folder. I placed them neatly into an envelope and wrote her name across the front. Then I went home, packed a small bag, and left it by the door. That evening, I placed the envelope on her nightstand without saying a word. She didn't notice the envelope at first. We barely spoke that evening. I pretended to be tired, scrolled through my phone while she droned on about her productive day. She didn't ask what I did, which made it clear she had no idea I had followed her. That illusion of control gave her confidence, and she overcompensated with kindness. She made dinner, offered me dessert, even asked if I wanted to watch one of our old shows, the ones she used to ignore because they were too slow. I declined. Around 11:40 p.m. I pretended to fall asleep on the couch. I heard her creep upstairs. I knew exactly what she'd do: shower, check her phone, and eventually see the envelope. Sure enough, just past midnight, I heard the creak of our bedroom floorboards, then a soft thump. Silence followed. For a moment, I thought she might not open it, that maybe she'd just toss it aside and pretend she didn't see it. But then came the rustle of paper, followed by stillness so heavy, I could feel it from downstairs. I waited. 5 minutes, 10, 15, then footsteps, soft at first, then quicker, almost frantic. She came down the stairs barefoot, her face pale, holding the open envelope like it was radioactive. She stood at the edge of the living room, unsure whether to speak. I sat up slowly, not looking at her. Trenton, she started, her voice thin and brittle. I can explain. I nodded. I'd love to hear it. But just so you know, I listened to everything. I've seen it all. And the best part? You still lied today. I didn't lie, she started. Co-working space? I cut her off. You mean Bryson's living room? That did it. Her knees buckled slightly, and she sat down across from me, gripping a throw pillow like it might protect her from what was coming. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, she whispered. It started as a mistake, I swear. I was going to tell you. When? I asked, not raising my voice. After our 10-year anniversary? Or maybe after your next brunch date in his bed. She flinched. Her eyes welled up. But I didn't feel sorry for her. I didn't feel anything. I was past pain, past rage. I just wanted the truth. Raw, unfiltered, and without her usual justifications. You said I was pathetic, I added quietly. You laughed at the sandwiches, the notes, the effort, all of it. She looked down, ashamed, maybe, or just cornered. I didn't mean it like that, she said. I was venting. He asked. No, I interrupted again. He didn't ask. You offered. You volunteered pieces of me to make yourself feel interesting. And then she cracked. Tears, real ones this time, started falling. She sobbed into her hands, saying she missed feeling wanted, that she felt invisible, that I had pulled away years ago. All the usual lines. I didn't respond. I let her sit in the silence she created. Finally, She looked up and asked the one question I knew was coming. So what now? I stood up, walked over to the door, and picked up the small duffel bag I had packed earlier. I'm giving you space, I said. You always said you wanted that. Her lips trembled. Are you leaving me? No, I replied. You left me a long time ago. I'm just finally catching up. Then I walked out. The first night away felt like nothing at all. No weight lifted. No clarity. Just a quiet hotel room and the haunting sense that I had finally done the thing I'd feared for years. I'd walked away. I kept expecting my phone to light up. An apology. A meltdown. A desperate attempt at reconciliation. But the screen stayed black. Hours passed. Then a full day. Then two. And that silence was deafening. I wasn't used to it. Mallory always had a reaction for everything. A retort, a guilt trip, a sad excuse. But now that I had finally called her bluff, she was silent. I started to wonder if maybe she wasn't coming after me at all. Maybe she really was done. Maybe Bryson had been the plan all along and she was just waiting for the right moment to walk away. But late on the second night, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One text. Just 3 words. Can we talk? I stared at the screen for almost a full minute before replying. Only if you're ready to be honest. She called right after that. No hesitation. Her voice was raw, tired, and different. I read everything again, she said. Every message I wrote, every photo. I saw myself through your eyes, and I hated what I saw. I didn't speak. I let her continue. I wasn't just cheating, she said. I was escaping. From you. From me. From the life we built because I didn't want to admit I felt like I didn't deserve it anymore. That caught me off guard. It was the first time she didn't blame me. She wasn't excusing it. She wasn't spinning it. She was just exposed. I sabotaged us because I was scared you'd eventually see me the way I really am, she added. And I couldn't handle that. I stayed quiet, partly because I didn't trust myself to speak without unraveling, and partly because for the first time she sounded like she wasn't lying. I'm not asking for anything, she continued, her voice breaking. I just wanted you to know that you were right. I did mock you. I betrayed you. I destroyed something that was better than I ever appreciated. And if you never come back, I understand. But I needed you to know. I was wrong. About everything. A long silence followed. Then I finally asked the question that had been eating at me since this all began. Was there ever a moment when you looked at me and wanted to fix it before it got this bad? She inhaled sharply. Yes, she whispered. The day you left that note in my coat pocket. The one that said, I still believe in us. I cried in the parking lot. And then I drove straight to Bryson's. Felt like getting hit twice by the same bullet. You had a choice, I said, my voice low. And you made it. I know, she said. And if that means I have to live with losing you, I will. I just wanted you to hear me say it before you disappear completely. I ended the call without saying goodbye. I didn't do it to hurt her. I just knew anything I said in that moment would dilute the truth she finally admitted. And part of me needed her to sit in the silence this time. Not because I was angry, but because silence had always been my prison in this marriage, and now it was hers. 3 weeks passed. I didn't hear from her again after that call. No texts, no missed calls, not even a just checking in message. And I needed that silence more than I realized. I stayed with my cousin during those weeks. Someone who didn't ask a lot of questions, just handed me a spare key and a couch. Each morning, I started to breathe a little easier. Each night, I thought a little less about what she was doing or whether Bryson had taken my place completely. Then, one afternoon, I returned from a walk and found a package waiting by the door. No postage, no name. Just a white envelope taped shut with my name written in her handwriting, the kind she used to use on birthday cards. Inside was a letter. 3 pages, handwritten. No dramatic intro, no begging. Just thoughts. Her thoughts. She said she had left Bryson. Not for me, for herself. She said she looked around his apartment one night and realized she had nothing in common with the person she had become around him. She said she started therapy. Said she finally told her mother the truth. said she was learning how to sit with herself in the silence instead of trying to fill it with other people's attention. But the last paragraph stopped me cold. She wrote, "I know I lost you. I don't expect a second chance. But if you ever think there's a version of us worth rebuilding, even if it looks completely different, I'd show up for it this time. The right way, with the truth first." I folded the letter, sat on the porch, and let the sun hit my face for the first time in what felt like months. I didn't know what our future looked like. Maybe we'd try again. Maybe we'd never speak again. But in that moment, I realized something important. She was finally telling the truth, and I finally had peace. That was more than I ever thought I'd get. So I went inside, made myself a cup of coffee, and sat with it. Not waiting, not grieving, just being. For the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again. Thanks for sticking with me through this story. What would you have done if you found that envelope? Have you ever been betrayed but found peace on the other side of it? Share your thoughts or a story from your life down in the comments. We read them all. And if this one hit home, don't forget, you're watching Reddit Confessions, where stories find their voice. See you in the next one.